This is a CBS News special report. I'm Jeff Glor reporting from Singapore. Good evening to you in the States. It is Tuesday morning here in Singapore and a new day in relations between the United States and North Korea. President Trump and Kim Jong Un have arrived at the Capella Hotel on the island of Sentosa for their historic summit. The main goal here, an agreement to rid the Korean peninsula of nuclear weapons, or at least start down that road. You are looking at a live picture at the Capella Hotel. You see the red carpet, you see the North Korean flags and the American flags as we await the arrival momentarily of both of these leaders. The first time ever that a sitting U.S. president has met with the leader of North Korea. I'm joined now by our CBS News chief White House correspondent, Major Garrett. And Major, we should mention at this hour we're dealing with breaking news on multiple fronts. One is this summit, and two is the president's economic advisor, so involved in this dust-up after the G7, just suffered a heart attack.
Larry Kudlow, age 70, suffered a heart attack. President Trump tweeted that news. We've confirmed it at CBS News. Larry Kudlow, a longtime friend of President Trump, an energetic economic advisor, a big believer in big ideas, a free market economist through and through. This trade pursuit of the president's, tariffs, a possible trade war, it is stressful throughout the administration. They're not related, but Larry Kudlow suffered that heart attack, is recovering at Walter Reed. The president obviously will be thinking about that, at least as a subtext to his very high-stakes, high-risk negotiations face-to-face with Kim Jong Un.
Kim Jong Un arrived at the hotel just moments ago. Standing next to Major is Do-yeon Kim. She's a CBS News contributor. You've long analyzed what's happening in North Korea, Do-yeon. As we look at these pictures, as we wait for them to arrive, as we wait for them to have this one-on-one, face-to-face, what are you looking for?
I'm looking for two things. One is chemistry, and the second is substance. So when the two leaders meet, we're seeing pictures right now. What will their rapport be like? Will they have good chemistry, their demeanor, their interactions? We need a positive chemistry, positive atmosphere for this summit so that we can maintain diplomatic process going forward so that we do not revert back to last year's dangerous situation of bluster. The second is on substance. Will they be able to agree on what denuclearization means? If they do, what does that look like? How fast? What's the pacing? What's the sequencing?
Well, speaking of that pacing, this is an accelerated process, to say the very least.
It is. And, you know, this summit coming so early, it's risky. President Trump seemingly unprepared, that's risky. At the same time, it's the first time, the only time a sitting American president has been able to clarify directly from a North Korean leader what he thinks is denuclearization, what he wants in terms of security guarantees. And so these are some issues that the two leaders will have to decide on. Will they come across with an agreement on substance, or will it just be a show? Will it just be pronouncements of peace and nothing else?
All right, Do-yeon. Kim Jong Un out of his vehicle and inside the hotel. I'm going to bring in Ben Tracy now. Ben, you've been to North Korea multiple times. You were just there a few weeks ago. What is the North looking for here?
Well, you know, just by sitting down, they get something from this summit. The Kim regime has long wanted some legitimacy, to be recognized by a president of the United States, to have a face-to-face meeting like this. But also for Kim Jong Un, this is about internal politics back home. He has promised his people that he's going to transform the economy, that he's going to get foreign dollars for investment for tourism in North Korea. And he really can't do that with these strict economic sanctions that North Korea has in place right now. So he's looking for a better relationship with the United States and hoping that down the road, those sanctions will go away. The big question is what he's willing to give up to get there.
We're going to come back to you in just a moment, Ben. Watch and listen. There's the meeting we have all been waiting for, as President Trump and Kim Jong Un shake hands. Once again, smiles from both men. as they proceed on to this meeting where they will talk one-on-one with translators, of course. Margaret Brennan is in D.C. right now. Margaret, take us through what we're looking at.
Well, this is the chemistry is what we are watching for, but you just saw two men, arguably the world's most powerful one, shake the hands of a roughly 34-year-old dictator who hadn't really met anyone else running a country until just a few months ago, in part because of the arsenal that he has developed. Remember, President Trump believes he's walking into that room with the so-called Trump card of being able to control financial strangulation of North Korea. Kim Jong Un walks in with something no one in his family has ever been able to say, which is that he has a nuclear weapon that can be delivered to U.S. shores. Now, whether or not it could successfully penetrate and not blow up upon launch is a question U.S. intelligence is still trying to answer. But you just saw a man divided by 2 decades, completely different walks of life, come in and try to go through the chemistry and the artifice of diplomacy. But as former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright liked to say, diplomatic talks like mushrooms grow better in the dark. This is an upside-down process. You are watching more of a media event than an arms control summit. Those arms control details, the content is being hammered out behind the scenes by professional diplomats on the sidelines here. Ambassador Sung Kim, our U.S. ambassador to the Philippines, decades of experience on Korean issues, has been meeting with his North Korean counterparts, and we have been told all those details, the things that will actually determine whether Kim gives up his weapons or not, have not been hammered out. But ultimately, the reason President Trump is taking this high-risk, high-reward gamble is because the only person who matters in North Korea in terms of decision-making is the man he's walking with shoulder to shoulder with right now. That approximately 34-year-old who has been running his country since 2011, Jeff.
Less than half President Trump's age. The president turned 72 this week, and we do believe Kim Jong Un is about 34 years old. We saw the cameras that are there that were allowed on site scurry up to try to capture whatever they could as these two men now talk. Major Margaret talked about this upside-down process. Should point out as well that they say they have gotten a lot done in advance in these talks.
Professionals have been talking to one another, working out the logistics, working out those non-accidental camera angles that capture every one of these moments, each and every step. But this is President Trump's approach to diplomacy in miniature. The president looked at the North Korean conundrum and said, I'm not going to do what previous administrations have done, which is what? Work at the lower levels, lower echelon people, working their way up to the top. He said, no, I'm going to flip that script, literally flip the script for a primetime presentation in the United States of diplomacy at the highest level. And it's that approach President Trump uniquely believes he is capable of pulling off, and that's why he's taking this risk.
Let's listen to both of them right now.
And we will have a terrific relationship, I have no doubt.
우리는 아주 굉장히 성공할 걸로 믿습니다. 그리고 아주 만나게 돼서 굉장히 영광스럽게 생각합니다. 아주 훌륭한 관계를 가지고 있고 아주 전혀 의심 없이 좋은 관계를 우리가 맺을 거라고 생각합니다.
또 여기까지 오는 길이 그리 쉬운 길은 아니에요.
Well, it was not easy to get here.
우리한테는 우리 발목을 잡는 그 과거가 있고 또 그릇된 행동과 발행들이 우리 때로는 우리 눈과 귀를 가리고 있었는데 우리 모든 것을 이겨내고 이 자리까지 왔습니다.
The past worked as fetters on our limbs, and the old prejudices and practices worked as obstacles on our way forward, but we overcame all of them, and we are here today.
That's true. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This way. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
여기가 대단합니다.
I'll tell you when we got
Okay.
very good news.
All right, guys, let's go.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so what you're watching right now is the cameras then being hustled out of the room as they just captured the greeting, the sit-down greeting. What I counted was at least a third handshake between President Trump and Kim Jong Un. We heard a little bit of what President Trump said. He said he thought they were going to have a terrific relationship. Dayun Kim is back with us as well. What else did we hear from?
So what stood out to me were two things. The first handshake, Kim Jong Un's expression. Yes, he had a smile, but it was not ear to ear. He did not have that charismatic, statesman-like feel to his gestures like he did with South Korean President Moon Jae-in. So you can tell he's a bit more reserved. He's got his A game on. He's serious going into this negotiation. The second thing that I've noticed is when Kim Jong Un spoke, he implied a new relationship. So for him, a new relationship with the United States is what he's after. Now that's very comprehensive, but that's his approach. That's his approach, his way of getting to all the details of peace, nuclear issue, security issue, and all the rest.
Major, these pictures can certainly be looked at 1,000 different ways.
1,000 different ways. And one thing I want to impress upon our audience, keep in mind the aspect of unpredictability. President Trump loves to be unpredictable. They have a choreographed 45-minute encounter. I'm going to tell you now, brace yourself for an hour, 2 hours. They have announced departure times today here from Singapore. It would not shock me at all if after a while there comes an announcement, oh, they're going to stay a little bit longer, they're working through things. Keep in mind, what President Trump wants to create here is not only outcomes, success, but keep alive the unpredictability and the possibility of personal interaction, achieving something that maybe even the professionals weren't quite sure was possible when they went and sat down together.
Margaret Brennan in New York still. Margaret, so 45 minutes was the guidance. We are told more now, never mind time for translators.
Right. As you know, because everything has to go through those translators, those are the two other individuals you saw on either side of the leaders sitting there. It takes quite a lot longer just to get through very basic conversations. This is the first time they've met. We don't know if, in fact, it's the first time they've spoken or not. There was some question whether they'd had direct communication. They have exchanged letters. We know that through their representatives. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo delivered a note from President Trump, and we know President Trump showed that letter that Kim Jong Un had sent to him when his representative came to the White House. Now, keep in mind, Jeff, remember the president said he would know in the very first minute whether or not these talks were going to be successful or not. So whatever it is that the president said he was looking for, perhaps his mind is made up, but at least to the cameras, he said he thinks they're going to have a great discussion. He said it's a terrific relationship. He is confident of that. Through his translator, we heard Kim Jong Un say, old prejudices were obstacles, but we overcame them and we are here today. Those old prejudices, some of that had to do with experience. No U.S. president wanted to sit down while in office with Kim Jong Un or his predecessors because of this record of agreeing to and then breaking or cheating on diplomatic details. President Bill Clinton was burned by that. President George Bush was the one who accused Kim Jong-il, Kim Jong-un's father, of breaking the last accord. And so you've had over time this experience that has only gone south and gone south rather quickly. With Kim Jong-un, he is young. The gamble here is that President Trump wants to see if all of his U.S. intelligence advisors are wrong. They have told him in that official U.S. intelligence estimate this year that Kim Jong-un's regime believes these weapons are key to his regime's survival, and he will not be willing to negotiate them. President Trump is trying to change his calculus, tell him you can stay in power, and this is how I'm going to give you those security assurances.
Okay, Margaret Brennan, thank you very much. You talk about those old prejudices. The question is how distinct the separation will be between Kim Jong-un and his father, Kim Jong-il. But the breaking news at this hour, you are looking at the Capella Hotel on Sentosa Island here in Singapore, and President Trump and Kim Jong-un have met for the very first time as they begin this one-on-one time to be determined as they communicate through translators. We will have much more on this meeting as we continue here throughout the evening, also on your local news on this CBS station and our 24-hour streaming news service, CBSN, for some of you in the West on tonight's CBS Evening News. Till then, I'm Jeff Glor, CBS News in Singapore. For many of you, the CBS primetime schedule continues in just a moment.
For news 24 hours a day, go to cbsnews.com.